London has exploded with anger. The city that usually represents tolerance, diversity, and democracy has tonight become the stage for one of the largest far-right demonstrations Britain has ever seen. A sea of Union Jacks and St. George's Cross flags stretched for miles through the capital, accompanied by chants that echoed through Westminster and beyond. Stop the boats. Send them home. Take back our country. What began as a march under the banner Unite the Kingdom is now being described as a political earthquake that threatens to shake Keir Starmer's government to its core. More than 100,000 people surged through the streets, some estimates placing the number as high as 150,000. That is not a fringe rally. That is not a small group of extremists. That is a city-sized movement declaring open opposition to Britain's immigration system, its leadership, and even its very identity. The protest was led by Tommy Robinson, a far-right activist who has spent years cultivating a base around his anti-immigration message. But the real story here isn't just who led it. It is the sheer number of ordinary citizens who chose to march, and the violence that erupted when the event spun out of control. For hours, central London was gridlocked. Police had prepared for a major event, but what they faced was far beyond expectation. Thousands of officers lined the streets, many in riot gear, ready to hold back potential clashes with counter-protesters. And yet, clashes came. Bottles and flares were hurled across barricades. A line of officers was punched, kicked, and pushed as protesters broke through. 26 police officers ended the day injured, 4 of them seriously. For a city still healing from years of political division, this was the last image anyone wanted to see. British citizens brawling with British police while the world watched. Even more shocking was the presence of global figures weighing in. From a giant video screen set up near the heart of the march, Elon Musk himself addressed the crowd. His words were clear and incendiary, calling for the dissolution of Parliament, attacking Britain's immigration policies, and warning that uncontrolled migration could destroy the fabric of Europe. The reaction was electric. The crowd roared, flags waved, chants intensified. Musk, one of the world's richest and most powerful voices, had just thrown his weight behind a movement that the government considers dangerous and divisive. Critics slammed his speech as reckless interference in British politics, but for the protesters it was validation from a global icon. Meanwhile, thousands of counter-protesters gathered in defiance. Groups under banners such as Stand Up to Racism and No to Fascism marched from Trafalgar Square toward Parliament, their numbers smaller but their message equally loud. Britain must remain a nation of tolerance, inclusion, and diversity. They carried signs with slogans like, "Migrants are welcome," and "This is our Britain too." But the truth is, their voices were drowned out by the sheer magnitude of the anti-immigration march. The television cameras and headlines couldn't ignore the scale of the Robinson-led rally, and the image that will endure is that of London overtaken by anti-immigration anger. Prime Minister Keir Starmer responded quickly, appearing on television and social media to condemn the violence. Peaceful protest is a right, he insisted, but attacking our police and spreading hate is not who we are as a country. He also criticized the use of national flags and patriotic symbols to divide communities, saying they belong to everyone, not to extremists. But Starmer faces a dilemma that could define his leadership. If he cracks down too harshly, he risks inflaming the anger of those who already feel ignored by the political establishment. If he ignores the protesters' demands, he risks letting the far right capitalize on the public's growing frustration with immigration, housing shortages, and strained public services. This march is not happening in isolation. Immigration has been one of the hottest issues in Britain for years. From the Brexit referendum to the endless debates about small boats crossing the Channel, the topic has never been far from the headlines. Starmer's government has pledged tougher border controls, but critics on the right claim he is failing to deliver. They point to rising numbers of asylum seekers, overcrowded shelters, and mounting costs. They argue that ordinary British families are paying the price while migrants are given priority. Whether or not those claims are fair, they resonate with a portion of the population. And tonight's march proves just how large that portion may be. Tommy Robinson has built his career on tapping into this anger. Once dismissed as a fringe figure, he has now shown his ability to mobilize masses. He framed the march as a festival of free speech, but the reality on the ground looked very different. Police clashes, chants against migrants, and violent attacks on officers. His critics argue that he is using fear and nationalism to push a dangerous agenda. His supporters argue he is saying what the political establishment is too afraid to admit. Either way, his voice has now grown louder, and ignoring it may no longer be an option. International observers are watching closely too. Across Europe, similar protests have been rising. In France, Marine Le Pen's movement continues to gain traction. In Germany, the AfD has surged in polls. In Italy, Giorgia Meloni rode an anti-immigration wave into power. Britain's march today ties directly into this European trend. Immigration is no longer just a policy debate. It has become the symbol of national identity, sovereignty, and culture. The question is no longer, how many people should Britain accept? But what does it mean to be British in the 21st century? That is a question no politician, not even Starmer, can easily answer. The aftermath of today's march leaves urgent questions. Will the arrests lead to tougher measures against far-right organizers? Will Starmer's government push new laws restricting protests? Or will it attempt to address the root causes fueling this anger? And what about Elon Musk? His intervention has already sparked a storm of debate about foreign influence in British politics. Some are calling for official investigations, while others fear his words may inspire copycat rallies across Europe. For better or worse, Musk has now placed himself at the center of Britain's immigration crisis. But perhaps the most important question is what this means for ordinary people. For migrants and their families living in Britain, tonight's images are terrifying. For police officers injured in the line of duty, they are a grim reminder of the risks they face daily. For ordinary British citizens watching from their living rooms, they are a sign that the country is more divided than ever. The sense of unity that once defined London, a global city of cultures and backgrounds, feels under threat, and how the government responds in the coming weeks will determine whether that unity can be restored. The march has ended, but the movement has not. Organizers are already planning further demonstrations. Online groups are buzzing with energy, fueled by viral videos from today's clashes. On the other side, anti-racism groups are preparing bigger counter-protests. London may soon see even larger confrontations, and the potential for escalation is real. The fear is that what began as chants and slogans could grow into something darker if left unchecked. Tonight, Britain faces a turning point. Will it double down on tolerance and diversity, reinforcing the values that have defined it for decades? Or will it be pulled into the tide of nationalism and division sweeping across Europe? Keir Starmer's next moves will be critical. His ability to handle immigration, control public order, and maintain trust in government could decide not only his political future but also the direction of the nation. One thing is certain, this was not just another protest. This was a message shouted from London's streets, broadcast across the world, and impossible to ignore. The fight over immigration is no longer confined to Parliament. It is playing out in the heart of the capital, in front of millions of eyes. And as the dust settles tonight, the question lingers. Whose vision of Britain will prevail? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. The march may be finished, but the battle it has unleashed is just beginning. And in the days to come, as new revelations, new protests, and new political maneuvers unfold, we will be here to uncover every twist, every clash, and every consequence. This is not just news. It is history in the making.